Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gritty Hour. I have a very special guest today, all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. I have Liam Jenkins. The writer of his last book is called uh, Dylan McFinn and the Sea Serpents' Fury. So welcome to the Gritty Hour, Liam.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, well, it's an honor to have you.
Ah,
So tell us a little bit about the book. First, before you even get into that, tell us a little bit about what made you decide to start writing this series of books.
okay. Well, first and foremost, I've always loved the craft of writing. I think from well, I've always been a frustrated creative, and I've tried my hand at drawing, playing an instrument, drama, all those things, amateur dramatic, those things. And the thing that really stuck was writing. And then my working career took a turn into public relations, and that really helped me hone the craft, hone the skill. I mean, the industry that I was in was incredibly boring. It
Mm-hmm.
was financial services, and it was completely dull. But I enjoyed the skill of writing articles and writing press releases. And then I just sort of I just enjoyed writing. That turned into blogs, which then turned into short stories, which then turned into writing longer stories. But it was a trip to Madeira, Portugal, a little island off the coast of Portugal, which is an amazing place. And it was a family holiday. We went there, and the majority of my family, or in-laws, should I say, don't know how to snorkel. So I'm very much a love of the sea, which we'll probably touch on a bit later. But I took them just around the bay, not very far, wearing the mask, taught them how to do it properly, and then they coined the phrase or nickname to me Captain Snork. And I thought, oh, he'd make a great character in a book.
Mm-hmm.
So I initially started doodling these pictures, and in fact, he looked like Johnny Bravo, this guy. And then it just changed and evolved from then onwards, and then it just became Dylan McFinn over a period of time, because I just thought, well, I can turn this into, or take from my experiences and all the things that I know and what I've lived through, and all the places that I've been. And that's kind of where it started.
Very good. I'd like to get a little bit into this series of books. The last of which is the Sea Serpent Fury, the
The
Dylan
last,
McFinn.
that's the first one.
Oh, this is the first one.
Well, if we're going chronologically, the prequel is Battle of the River Chaos. Then you've got Dylan McFinn and the Sea Serpent's Fury, and then the latest one is Dylan McFinn and the Temple of the Four Winds. But the, well, that's self-published. I am recently published now with a publishing house, and they've taken on board Dylan McFinn and the Sea Serpent's Fury. So that's basically I suppose, the more revamped version, and the most recent version out there at the moment.
Hmm. Well, that's what I like about it. It seems like you developed your own. Is it Lapatia? Am I saying it? Lapat?
Lapatia.
Yeah, you've developed your own universe under the sea with
Yeah,
this.
well, actually, Lapatia is a real place. It
Mhm.
sunk off the coast of Tonga, I think. So it's a real well, if you're up for swimming down there and checking it out. But I looked into it, and I think in the 1700s it sunk, and I thought, here we go. This
Mhm.
is something to hang, to begin the stories. But yeah, Lapatia is a real place. But Maloto, which is where the action starts, isn't. I made that up.
And it takes place. All of the series takes place under the sea.
Yeah, under the sea and on it.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little
um,
bit about the main character, because that's what I'd like to know about.
okay, well, the main character, it starts off with his dad. It starts off with Dylan's dad, Colbert McFinn. So he's a well-seasoned sailor, and he frequents a tavern on the local island, Maloto, and this island is full of mystery and sort of, again, seasoned sailors and pirates and that sort of thing. But it's only sort of through seafaring folk that they know where it's going to show this place. It's called Neptune's Tower. So he's in there with his mate, who's the proprietor of the place, Rusty, and he has too many rums,
Hmm.
and he decides to go home, wind his merry way back to his lighthouse, which he looks after. Um, and keeps all the villagers safe. And he also acts as a bit of a Heath Robinson character, fixing things, mending things, and basically giving people best practice, nautical practice. And he's well loved on the island. But he decides to take a stroll home via the beach one night, and he sees a commotion commotion in the ocean. he sees a commotion in the sea. So he goes out to see what's there, and lo and behold, it's a mermaid. This mermaid pops up, and she delivers him a kiss, and all of a sudden he falls head over heels in love, and she disappears. And he doesn't see her for another. Well, she then turns up a bit later on in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes out on a fishing trip with another friend, and Varuna is following him on the boat, and she pulls him in, and she takes him down to Apatia, and then push on a few years. Dylan and his younger brother Axenius show up. So these guys are like half breeds. They're half human, half mermaid, or Lapatian, as they're known in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't, they're not like mer people. They don't have the fishy leg, fishy bottom half.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the tail. But they're encapsulated in this bubble. It's called a mermaid's kiss, and she did it at birth because she didn't know whether they'd survive underwater. So Dylan's 13th birthday, as a surprise, her dad, Colbert, or their dad, decide to go back to the island for a camping trip, because it's been almost a decade since he's been back, because he just disappeared. And he goes back, and then everything has changed. And then that's when the fun begins. And I won't say any more.
No, well, you don't want to give it away, but
No.
it centers around Dylan McFinn, and he is, what, like 12, 13 years old, right?
Yeah. He's 12, and then he comes of age in his teens on the island.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
a lot of the adventures are centered around him.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty well. Him and his brother. I mean, it kind of jumps from him to his brother, and then back to other goings on in the islands. But basically, him and his brother are completely different, and they squabble and they fight like brothers do. But then it becomes a bit more serious, and it starts to take a bit more of a sinister turn, and they split. But I won't again.
No, you don't want to give too much away. So
No, I won't say too much more.
but I'm gonna gather that the prequel is centered more around the father and the mermaid.
No, close, but it goes back further.
Okay. I apologize, Liam. Our internet has been a major league suck all day today. It's because it was 102 degrees out, or what? Or it just sucks in general. But I interrupted you. Were talking about the essence of your book, and I wanted to, while you were talking, I wanted to share your website so the folks can see where they can purchase the book. So I don't know if you can see that on your end.
Yeah, there you go.
This is the book we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go on. I apologize for that, but go on. You were talking about the essence of the book and the characters involved.
Yeah. I can't remember where I got to now. But
Well, you were talking about the main character, which is Dylan McFinn, a 13-year-old boy, and his younger brother.
Yeah. So that's effectively the book is based around Dylan, and his younger brother, and they standard as brothers do. They fight, they squabble, they bicker, they physically fight. But what happens when they do go back to Maloto is that it's almost like that's on steroids, and they just follow. There's like they take this pathway. The pair of them, they're given an opportunity to do right or wrong, and they both choose their path,
Hmm.
and that starts the story.
I see. And does just for the viewers and listeners, does it take place mostly under the sea? Is it like?
No, what? No, not really. It's I would say a third of the book does,
Hmm.
but then they obviously they go back to Maloto, and then they what happens happens. But throughout the series, because I'm hoping it's going to be a series of 5 or 6 books, but basically it's I'm picking places in or on the world or in the world which has a real interest to me. It's like the Temple of the Four Winds is on Rapa Nui, which is Easter Island, just because it's just shrouded in mystery and wonder, and obviously you've got the big the Easter Island heads there.
Hmm.
You've got uh, the Birdman, the legend of the Birdman. So basically, they go to, and they're going to go to these different places around the globe, which I have a personal interest in. So the third book, they're going to go to the Garden of the Queens, which is a archipelago off of Cuba, and it's where the salt water hits the fresh, and there is a term for that, and I can't remember it. Um, and that's where the big boys live. That's where the big sharks and the big crocodiles live. So, um, and that's kind of where I'm taking the guys, and they're going to go because there's a reason why they're going to these places. And again, that's a bit of a giveaway if I tell you why.
It's all just it's a big adventure. It's what Dylan goes through. Does he as the series develops, does he get older?
That's a good question. I don't know yet, actually. I don't know whether to make it like, does this all happen very quickly in, over a period of a year or a week or so? I don't know. So it's a really good question. I haven't even thought about that far.
Well, let me ask you a question that I had a podcast a couple of weeks ago with a fellow who wrote um, something in a somewhat similar vein, and I had asked him, do you have like a cinematic approach to writing? Do you have like do you see a movie in your head when you're writing? I'm just curious.
No,
No.
I consider myself, and this will probably change the more professional I get, because that's the ultimate goal is to do this for a living. At
Hmm.
the moment, I'm I'm a part-time writer. I do this, and then I've also got a day job, but this is my passion. But when I do write, I consider it like gardening. I plant the idea, cultivate the idea, and just see where it goes. Sometimes it needs a bloody good prune, and other times I just let it do its thing. But I let the idea just roll. I think it was George R. R. Martin who said there are two types of writers. There's the architect who has it down to the precise measurement as to what's going to happen in the book, and then there's like me, a writer that just chucks it in the ground and see what happens. Because I knew the beginning and I knew the end goal, or I know the end goal, but what happens in the middle is hasn't happened yet.
Right. I'm always fascinated about the approach that authors take, and um, like you, several of the other authors I've spoken to all seem to let the character decide what happens.
Yeah, it does. The character now has a mind of his own, and is his own person,
Right.
metaphorically, and he is dictating where this goes.
Right. Just even right down to the conversations he's having. Like this
Yeah,
this particular character wouldn't say this. This particular character would do this, not this.
that's right. It's
I
getting to that point now. Yeah,
fascinating because then it becomes the story is dictating to the author rather than vice versa, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. So I find that fascinating the way authors like yourself approach the work. So do you derive a lot of enjoyment out of doing it? I'm sure you do.
I do, but again, there was a very famous writer called Ernest Hemingway who said, "Writing's easy. All you do is you sit down at a typewriter and bleed." And that's exactly how it feels. You do sometimes. It really is a painful experience, and you just procrastinate and you sit there and you do anything else but write. But when you do get in that flow, when you do get in that channel, it's brilliant. I said to my wife, one of the chapters in the Temple of the Four Winds, I reread it back. I said, I don't remember writing this because I was just channeled. I was in that channel, that creative flow, and it was coming from elsewhere. And you know that's where you need to get to, but it takes a while to get there.
I know, but it seems like it must be quite a high to get into that
Yeah,
mind frame. Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge sense of achievement when you do this, and I understand when there's a lot of writers and authors out there that have drafts in a drawer that haven't been touched. They've got an idea for a book and they just chuck it away, or they've done a paragraph or a sentence and then they leave it because it's hard. It's really tough.
Yeah. How long have you been working on this series?
I think since the nebulous or the birth of the idea was 2012.
Hmm.
I suppose 10 years, I guess. But I really started writing about 2016. That's when I actually put pen to paper,
Hmm.
um, or finger to the key button. I yeah, 2012 was the idea, and then I sat on it for such a long time, and I thought, right, I've got to go back to my book.
Right.
Um, yeah. So I suppose from 2016. So what's that? Six
So,
years.
but the character has been developing them or themselves since.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, initially Dylan was called uh, Captain Snork. Um, and then he went from that because I did a bit of digging and found out that Captain Snork is actually a character in the Moomins. So instead of getting my arse sued
Mm-hmm.
right off, they suggested that I didn't use that. So then I picked the name Dylan Murphy, which
Ah,
which I quite liked. But there is an author in the US who got in touch very quickly and told me that you can't do that because my book's called Dylan Murphy. So I had to think again. But Dylan McFinn, I think's got a really nice ring to it. So that's kind of where we got to. Yeah,
especially with the C involved and the McFinn for some reason.
McFinn, it works, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does. It does. So I'm going to ask a question that anybody watching us on YouTube is going to say is an obvious question. Who does your illustrations?
The guy who does my illustrations he's a tattoo artist, and I really liked his stuff. And I just said, would you be up for a commission? And he said, yeah, sure. And I sent him the character descriptions, and this is what he came up with. So Dylan's on the left, Colbert's on the right, and when you scroll down, you've got a Marilla there with the hood on. She's a sea nymph, and she's playing a big part in the story at the moment. And then you've got Kadavu, which is the shark god there.
Hmm.
And I've got a few more commissions that I've asked him to do, and he's still getting back to me. So, but they're kind of the main characters at the moment.
I see. And he's very talented.
He's very good, isn't he? Yeah, his his tattoos are brilliant. I can't remember. Matt Lanky is his name, but I can't remember his handle on Instagram. I have to find it out because he is a very talented man.
But Dylan's not on this pad. He's up here, right? This is,
He's up there. There he is.
yeah. Very good. That's interesting. We're going to make Dylan a superhero one of these days.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
I can see it on Disney Plus.
Well, now, being simple-minded, I'm still not clear about the chronology of these. How it's to be best read. So let me ask you, what would you recommend our listeners buy first out of all of these four?
The best book to buy is Dylan McFinn. and the Sea Serpent's Fury. Buy that one first, and then see, and then you'll either be hooked or you won't be. Because the Battle of the River Chaos will sort of give you more depth into the history of the island, and then the Temple of the Four Winds leads you on into where Dylan's going.
I see. Okay.
So
More to come, obviously. So if someone purchases the Serpent's Fury now and gets hooked into it, they can look forward to more in the future, even after
yeah,
reading the other two.
yeah, there's more coming, and even people if they want to are more into audiobooks. I've had it done via Audible. It's on there as well. If you want to download it, you can do. I had a very talented graduate help me do the voices, and it came across quite well, I think.
Oh, good.
Uh, well, you can download it for free actually if you sign up. Well, if you haven't already signed up to Audible, you can sign up to the website and you can download it for free. I think
You,
you get it free for 30 days, or you get one download for free or something. So
yeah, even if you're not a member of Audible, you can sign up to Audible for I forget also, I think it's a 30-day trial period.
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
You can listen to the Sea Serpent's Fury during that trial.
yeah,
So, and I know you're on Amazon.com and I know you're on BarnesandNoble.com.
yeah,
And I saw your reviews on Amazon. Everyone seems to love it. And you also had mentioned to check out the reviews on Goodreads.
yeah,
Um, but I'll say, I might as well say now what I've learned to say during every interview I've done with an author. If you want to get into this book and you want to get the Sea Serpent's Fury as an example, and just learn about this particular series, go to your local bookseller and your local bookstore and say, I'd like to order this book.
yeah. 100%. I totally agree. I mean, just go to your local store and just order it in. It may take a couple of weeks or so, but yeah, because that really does help me because it reflects in what my publisher sees the other side of it on their dashboards, and they go, oh, okay, it's doing quite well in the States, so they would just sort of direct that energy to it. So yeah, absolutely. Speak to your local booksellers.
Yeah, and then when you get, because generally they'll order more than one copy, and when you get hooked on the book and you tell your friends, you can tell them where to go buy it because there'll be two or three more copies in that store.
That's how it works. You get one, then it's three, then it's five, then it's seven. It does snowball.
Yeah. So, do you have a working title for anything in the future, or is is
Yes.
is Dylan being coy with you?
Well, I've got so it's Dylan. What my work in progress at the moment is Dylan McFinn and the Garden of the Queens, which is what I mentioned earlier. That is what's that? That's number three, and I'm toying with the fourth one being, but it might be the sixth. I'm not sure. Dylan McFinn and the Pillars of Hercules, but I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
Hmm.
And depends how this one pans out. The next one.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned before we started recording that you and your family are into scuba diving and
Yeah,
deep. Do you go deep sea diving at all?
I go. I've done scuba. I've done. I think was it 30 meters or 25? I can't remember. So I've done I've done a fair distance, but I haven't done deep sea diving yet. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. And do you when you do you go generally into the Pacific or?
Where have I been? I've been the it was the Red Sea.
Oh yeah, a friend of
Done,
mine just came back from that. Yeah.
yeah, I've done the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. I haven't done or have I? Um, I've snorkeled in the Pacific. I haven't done any scuba in the Pacific, which I like to do.
Yeah. Yeah, a friend of
Maybe.
mine just came back from scuba diving in off of Egypt.
Yeah, that's where I went. Sharm
Yeah.
el Sheikh.
Yeah.
It was one of the best dive spots. I don't know if it still is, but it was one of the best dive spots in the world.
Yeah, before he went, I wouldn't even have associated one to the other, but he said he had a phenomenal time there.
Yeah,
So,
it's unreal.
and does that inspire you in terms of the character development, the storyline, and all? When
It
you,
does.
yeah,
It does. I don't know if people listening, if you have been scuba diving. It's the most surreal experience, but it's just wonderful. Um, but everything about the sea is inspiring. I think the most, I think the thing which had the biggest impact was when I watched Jaws on my own, about 8 years old, in my bedroom, for the very first time. That is what had the biggest impact on me, especially about sharks. I mean, it petrified the life out of me, like everybody who watched it, I think. But I didn't have a, I wouldn't have a bath for about 6 months because I was so scared he was going to come out the plug hole. Um, that's true, that's true. But but the actual film itself is it's my favorite film, and I watch it every 4th of July because that's when it's based around. And I've listened to or reread the book itself by Peter Bletchley, I think. And it's just a great bit of writing, and the way it's so descriptive in the shark itself and the ocean and what have you. It's just brilliant. It's just
Yeah.
brilliant.
Well, I've this kind of a storyline. Um, when I was, I'm trying to remember the name of the book that this fella wrote. The first thing that begged that shown itself to me was this could be a video game, and by God, he was saying that he was working with a video maker. This is called the couple of podcasts ago, a book called The Last Keeper, the Warminster series, book one.
Yeah.
And I sort of get the same feeling with this. Like I can see this being a video game, like an
Well,
underwater adventure game with sea serpents and the creatures and stuff.
100%. I mean, it could be. It could be. It was designed. Well, it was written. I always saw this as a motion picture. I saw this could be a brilliant film, or it could be a brilliant series on Disney Plus or Netflix or Prime or whatever.
Right.
But it could easily be turned into a computer game. It could be latched upon or like a GTA sort of free roaming world. That would work really well.
It's funny. That's why I was asking you, do you have like a film in your head when you're writing? But I understand you let the characters develop themselves, so to speak. But I do see this as sort of a cinematic, something you could watch, turn into a screenplay.
Yeah, I mean, I people ask me what's your book like, or what if you had to pigeonhole it and say it was like a book, what would you say? And I always say, because it's in that genre, it's like Harry Potter, but it's like Harry Potter meets Percy Jackson. But I'm now showing my age because I also feel like it's a bit like Fern Gully as well.
Hmm.
So people now, um, that separates the men from the boys. That was came out in '92, I think. So people, if you don't know that, look it up. It's a great film. But there's a strong eco theme running through the book. I haven't like slapped it in your face like we get it every day.
Hmm.
At the moment, it's in the news and what have you. But it's just how um, it's used on the island. It's all about mend and make do, and they've got this plastic problem, and that's why Dylan's dad's so important because he helps the islanders deal with it. Or he uses for instance, he designs this the his friend Marvin he devises this instrument from like curtain hooks and an old windsock, and he fills the windsock full of air, ties an end off, and he drops it in with the curtain hooks with a line on it, and it catches all the plastic.
Mm.
The book explains it better, but it's so and it's things like that. So, like I said, he's a bit of a Heath Robinson character that he mends and make do,
Mm.
and he's really well regarded on the island for that.
Mm.
But I'm not really preaching it. It's a theme in the book, along with I talk about coral bleaching in there because that's a big thing.
Hmm.
And there's elements of it, but I haven't gone heavy on it. It's more the character's development that is a concern. I didn't want it to be you know too heavy in that direction.
Right. Well, no, but I think people will enjoy, and I know you're a relatively new father yourself. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And would you say this would be for like 8 years old and up to
Yeah.
adulthood?
Well, I mean, you could sit and read this to your daughter or your son
Hmm.
from whenever you deem fit, because I haven't, and this is going to sound quite arrogant, but I haven't had a review under 3 stars, and on the book. And it's not just kids that I'm getting decent reviews from; it's people that are in their 40s, 30s, mid 20s. They just, because interestingly, this has come from a place of authenticity, because there are bits of this story which obviously I don't know a bloody mermaid, do I? But the boy, the characters, the lads are me and my brother, although it's only loosely based upon us. We don't fight like that. Um, and my dad is a bit like Colbert, but there's bits of Colbert in him and me, and vice versa. So it's just and I consider myself very lucky to have the upbringing that I did. But you go through family trauma. You can't not have. You can't go through life without not having it. And also, there's moral issues within the book as well, such as bad things happen to good people. What are you going to do about it, and how are you going to handle it?
Hmm.
Are you going to become bitter and twisted and remunerate on it? That's the right way, I think. The right way, yeah. On it, and that then becomes your repeated pattern in life, or you're just going to accept that bad things happen to good people, and it's nothing personal, and you just got to, although it hurts, you just got to get on with it.
Yeah, and even just from the adventure point of view, for a young child, like a bedtime story, say, it seems like the perfect book to read to your children
Yeah,
or
well,
have
that's
them read them themselves. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, my dad started it off really because he used to sit and read. Well, he didn't read to me. He used to tell me stories, and it was every night was a new story, and it was frustrating because I'll tell that one you told me last week. Oh well, I can't remember it now. Oh, okay, all right. Well, and it just, but the stories were brilliant. Every evening was a different story.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's what got me started, really.
Yeah, you're a natural born storyteller. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reviews, the ones that I saw this afternoon on Amazon, were all rave reviews, and some of them did say they read them, or they had their children, or bought it for their children to read, and the children loved them. But a lot of them were from adults that enjoyed it themselves. So it can be, it's obviously it's a 13-year-old kid, so someone in that age range would love to read this kid's adventures, but an adult, I think, would enjoy this as well.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, any fan of action adventure sort of young adult books, this is up their street. It's it Yeah, it does. Fans of Harry Potter and Percy Jackson would like it.
Hmm. Yeah, so I urge our listeners then to obviously go to liamjenkinsofficial.com, and that link to this website will be in the show notes of this podcast. And can you purchase the book from your site here?
I think you can if you click on that link there. I think it will just send you straight to Amazon. I think if I've done it right.
Okay. Oh, that's what I was going to say was you can also just go to amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com. There's quite a few places to get it. And as we both mentioned before, ask your local bookseller to stock it for your so you can buy it and right in your own hometown.
Hmm.
But I do appreciate your time tonight, and I know your newborn is sleeping, so I was trying not to talk too loud.
I hope so. I'd be still sleeping. Yeah.
I got to get used to the fact that it's what are you 6 hours ahead of us over there in England?
What's the time now? It's just gone 11.
Yeah, yeah. That the links on his website will take you directly to Amazon.com, and as I mentioned before, you can see some of these reviews for yourself. They're all uh, raving reviews. So this is definitely a book to pick up, especially if you like this particular genre. I would get into it because, as Leah mentioned, there's more to come. So if you get hooked on this story, you'll have plenty more to come.
Oh yeah,
So
100%.
yeah, so I thank you again for your time tonight, Liam, and the best of luck with the book. And reach out to us when you're ready for the next book.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'd love to come back on.
Yeah, well, you'll be back on, and hopefully our internet will work then.
Yeah.
All right. God bless. Have a great night, sir.
And you, thank you.